That was the best disgust. Like that's up there with Sideshow Bob's.
Right now I have to set the mic.
Yeah.
Thing is that something's probably it's gonna go wrong, right?
Yeah.
Something is gonna go south. Or it's not gonna work right because it's not every day you get somebody tweeting out to I don't know however many millions. So why would anything go right?
Seriously.
But the good news is anytime anything goes wrong, we've always got this to rely on. Or at least we used to. Why would that work either?
It's because we don't have any sound effects.
Right? No, everything should be working now. It's just...
Yeah, we just want to do it right.
Well, we could always just abandon... We could restart YouTube. We would just have to abandon the good folks at Facebook.
Facebook, right.
They would be the only ones that get burned if we stopped and started again.
Yeah.
And I'll replace the video later.
We could just start again.
No, I know that. I know, but there are certain platforms, and you have to
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah. That's okay. Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll bail out. Sorry, Facebook, but if you're hearing this, we're deleting it. We'll upload it later. Join us on YouTube or Twitch. NetHeads on air, I think, for both.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. All right. Yeah, why should anything work right?
I'm just posting the Facebook group the post where they can find us.
Beautiful. Let's get restarted.
Okay.
Oh wait, hold on. Yeah, let me make sure why I'm not hearing anything here either. 1 second. Oh, because I'm on it. Yeah, sure. Hi, that's good. That's cool too. Okay. All right, stop typing. Here we go. You ready?
Yes.
In 5, 4, 3, 2.
Episode, it's a Nog-A-Thon 2017. Oh.
Yeah, that's right. Podcasts are great, radio's boring, and when you try and overcomplicate things and do too much of one thing at any time, it'll bite you in the ass. Hello everybody, welcome. Another edition of NetHeads, special one, Nog-A-Thon 2017. Great news is we've now had one hell of a dry rehearsal. My name is Will.
And I'm Trent.
If you want to take part in the program, you can. One of many ways. One of them is Twitter. Trent, tell all the people that weren't listening on like streaming audio how they do that.
Yeah. Oh gosh. So it's so easy. You just use the hashtag NetHeads. Not unlike Ash Williams, our good friend Bill Stranahan, Lee Velasquez, and Roller Dog NC, and our longtime listener Tom Kate. Just use the hashtag NetHeads.
Very good. You can also give us a phone call eventually at Yakbet 9020 866-610-WILL, or you know what, the easiest way is just NetHeads on air via Skype. Trent, what do you got rocking there, man? What are you drinking for the Nog-A-Thon?
For the Nog-A-Thon, we're going with I highly recommend as a mixer this Rockstar Recovery. It's orange, it's non-carbonated, It's not super sweet, so I just add a little dash of the Diet Sunkist in there, and on top of that, just mix it in with a little bottom shelf Scotch, Clan McGregor, and then maybe a little later we'll mix it up with some sugarcane cachaça.
Some sugary hibby witty buddy now.
It's so most rums are made out of like molasses, and this is like a rum, but it's distilled from sugarcane, and it's special to Brazil. It is the third most imbibed spirit in the world.
And can you tell me what rum chata is? Because I've heard mention of this as well.
Is it like horchata with rum?
Oh, there we go. That's probably what I'm thinking of.
But horchata's got the milk in it, so that's not happening for this guy.
Oh, and so that's why you're kind of going with this mixture here. Why are you avoiding the milk? I've heard it does the body good.
Well, it does, and I'm a fan of the milks. Not a fan of the milks with the alcohols due to a Loganowski party where White Russians made me forget or not even realize that night happened.
I'm laughing because I'm pretending like I haven't already heard that you got blackout drunk.
And my friend had to wake me up in my backyard as I was asleep in the lawn. Luckily, the dog lied down next to me.
Well, that's good. So he kept you warm all night.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how long I was there.
Well, what time?
Let's be honest.
Fair enough. What time of the year did this happen, though?
I believe this was like September-ish.
Oh, okay. So that's decent enough
It was
to get really
great
cold,
night to be
right?
sleeping outside. Absolutely.
Very good. All right. By the way, get everyone caught up. Welcome. As I said, I'm Will. That's Trent. We've told you how to get in touch with us. Tonight is our annual Nog-A-Thon. No special effects, no special sounds, just us and whatever it is you want to drink. Like Trent is he's working some energy drink in there, so he's got some sugar and some pick me up with his Clan McGregor and whatever else he decides to throw in there. People also missed you fingering your ice bottle from the first time.
Oh, I did, yeah. Don't worry, I'll finger it later.
Which is good, though, because it shows you're thinking ahead. I've just got one glass of anything, and that's it. I have nothing else for this. But please, you don't have to drink the eggnog.
Someone needs to be in control, Will.
That's true. Fair enough.
So
if you do want to partake, if you want to chat along with us, you can do so on Twitter, as Trent said, #NetHeads. Feel free to drink anything you want. And also, I just decided not to restart everything, Trent. So the Facebook peoples can take part as well. Still, nothing.
Oh well, I'm going to change my update then.
That's okay. Yeah, just delete it. It never happened.
Yeah.
Just like so many other things. Somebody asked. I think it was. Is it Randy Chang? Is that his name? R Chang.
Yeah. Who purchased, if I remember correctly, ABC, the graphic novel from Death Ray Comics way back when.
Way back in the day. He asked, was there going to be any Foley work on this show? Because obviously, I guess I recently did something right because this doomed failed experiment we want to call a podcast actually got tweeted by Mr. Kevin Smith. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing like it. Boy, that must be nice. You've had a day of drinking, and then just like suddenly, oh look at this tweet here.
Yeah, I was like, hey, I know that guy. Well, I mean, not biblically, but I've met him before.
You even have a picture with him. I've seen it.
Yeah.
It's probably
what that is.
I bet you it's probably the only thing you remember from that day. Anyway.
Yeah, it was high stress.
High stress, high energy, high octane, all of the above, right?
Agreed.
Anyway, so recently, I don't know if you have caught up with it yet, Trent, but in the quest for filling the empty seat of his bro Scotty Moe, Kevin Smith, a few episodes of Smodcast ago, decided to instead give us as he put it, an oral treat, and read the first script from the miniseries of Hit Somebody. I don't know.
Yeah.
Did you catch that, first of all?
Yes, and I'll be honest, it was very reminiscent of one of my favorite Fat Man on Batman's when he read from a couple issues of JLA.
Yeah, that was Rock of Ages, I think was the...
Yep.
And I can't believe I remembered that. But it was a great read. Actually, his read was so good, and his conviction and emotions from it were so good that it compelled me to buy the compendium, the put together graphic novel. I think from Death Ray Comics, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's true.
You're such a liar. I didn't buy anything from Death Ray ever. What a prick. Anyway.
I that happened, and he even made a little play in there about like, oh, I was even thinking I could do this, but you're talking to the guy who was just like, it's good enough, so he didn't do it. And there was this one part in the description, and for without going too deep into it, there is a battle in World War I, right? And
Correct.
during it, it's described that so basically one Canadian gets into a fight, and then the other Canadians join in. And they end up having so much fun during it that they get into a wonderful song of "Oh Canada" as they're accentuating the song with the punches and kicks. And I'm like, what would that sound like? and that was the big mistake, because I shouldn't say mistake. It's been amazing, but I have newfound respect for anyone that does what they call Foley work, adding sound effects in. Because you're entering an entire new realm, because you're painting a mental picture, and
totally.
And by the way,
yeah,
if you've ever tried to figure out what kind of ambiance to put in a hotel room from the 70s, Trent, this is the kind of question I've had to answer. Let me ask you though. Let me ask you. So you've got to try and find one quintessential sound that can run in the background the whole time. What is it?
Maybe like a. It's the 70s, so a window AC unit.
Or one of the in-wall mounted ones. Excellent.
Yeah.
Same direction I went, friend.
Okay, good.
So anyway, I'm not saying this to toot my own horn, but it's probably the only reason why we ended up getting our episode here of Nog-A-Thon tweeted, and it's also the reason why I have absolutely no interest in trying to do any quirky or funny sound effects. It's just...
Because you've been doing it.
A little bit, what did they say? The cobbler's kids... and shoes.
Yeah, never
like
have
that.
shoes, and the butcher's family are vegetarians.
There you go. So anyway, so that's the reason why none of that's happening. But I got to tell you, seeing the reaction online has been great. And the other thing too that I found interesting is that, and I didn't realize this until after the fact, but I realized, Trent, I've been directed by Kevin Smith.
Yeah,
I have.
Yes.
I've taken direction from him.
Well, and I would also say not only your creative endeavors as a Foley artist, but also as an editor as well. Prior to this, even.
Yeah, some instances, but not a whole. Oh yeah, I guess. You know what?
For episodes.
Here I thought I was all excited. I'm doing something new and cool, and you're like, no, Will, I got to tell you, that's the same shit you've been doing all the time.
No. It's different because now instead of just like cutting stuff or putting this, that, and dropping stuff in, now you're able to dive into those Bocephus juices and get them flowing. You know what I mean?
No. What does Bocephus mean?
Well, it's your creative juices.
Yeah. Okay.
Not in like procreative juices, which is something else.
I was wondering where you were going with there.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know. Was the audio out when we were talking about the awesome Santa, where I'm not sure I'm drinking from, but this is what
It was
consuming my beverage from. I love the fact though that you're mixing alcohol with energy drink, because you're like, I'll be goddamned if I'm not going to turn out one hell of a Nog-A-Thon night. Gotta be here, man. You know what I'm saying? I understand completely. So that whole thing happened. It was great. It was lots of fun. It is amazing how much work goes into it. But that was really exciting. And much in the same way that you just redefined something for me now, Trent, making me realize, actually, Will, you've been taking direction for a little while. It kind of reminds me of something else. So I just want to switch gears, unless you had any questions on the whole Foley thing.
No, just I'm gonna tweet out a link here. There's a great podcast called 20,000 Hertz, and they did an episode all about Foley work, and they went in and talked to a bunch of Foley artists and stuff. If it's something that is kind of you're interested in, it's definitely worth listening to.
Oh, excellent! Thank you, sir, for that wonderful bit of information. And actually, for me too, I'm now at the point. It was the other thing I can tell you about the experience, which is funny for me, is that it's very much listening to the story without hearing it, I guess, is the best way to put it.
Okay.
Like finally, I didn't think I would ever go back and listen to these, having heard them so much. But it turns out there are a lot of elements I just didn't listen to because I was so in the moment. So that was a unique experience. The reason why I mention that is because earlier today we were having our annual watching of Love Actually.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And I assume you've seen this wonderful British film from 2003.
Now this, no, because I think the best rom-com from based in Britain was and always will be Notting Hill. Because, Will, you understand, I'm just a man on the other side of the internet looking at you through a webcam, asking you to love me.
How do you answer for your crimes, sir?
I don't know. At another date, when I'm more coherent in thought, I can explain why rom-coms might be the greatest genre of all time.
Wow. Suddenly I want to abandon Nog-A-Thon and I want to travel down that road with you, my friend.
It's all about ascension in social strata and classes. It's always someone ascending to a higher social class. And is very interesting when you take a step back and look at it from that aspect.
So I was having my annual rewatching of Love Actually, because it's very Christmas eccentric, and my wife and I, we like to watch it together. We love the movie. It's got the great late Alan Rickman in it. I mean, it's got an all-star cast. I mean, Rick Grimes is there.
Yep.
The guy that was the assassin on Serenity, he's there. I mean, there are so many, and Arthur Dent, or whether you want to call him Arthur Dent or you want to call him Dr. Watson. I can't remember what his first name is. Yeah. John Watson. Whatever you want. He's in it too. Great movie. Unfortunately, I don't think I can actually convey my sense of wonder and dismay that I had watching it today. Because mind you, I've seen this movie at least probably a dozen times, which is probably far less than a few people. But there is so are you not, you seriously don't even know anything about this movie?
I remember it being recommended to me, and I think we've talked about it in the past, but I also know we've talked about what's the singing one that you've told me I need to watch?
Oh, Pitch Perfect. That's not
Pitch
even
Perfect.
That's not even
really not even in the same wheelhouse.
Not at all. You're not even. I mean, I'm talking spaghetti and you're talking gorgonzola, man. Come on.
I do love the gorgs.
Good to know. Glad to know that. My heart is full. So anyway, there are all these different stories going on in here, right? And one of the story, because it's a rom-com, or I don't even know if it's a romantic comedy, but it's also one of those stories that's written where we're seeing all these different people and they all kind of have interconnectedness, right?
Yeah, kind of like Crash, but not Crash.
Yeah, exactly. Like Crash, but not Crash. So in this case, there are all these different stories, and there's this interesting one where there's one minute detail that I completely missed, right? And the moment I did, I started bawling at that moment. And then from the moment the next big pivotal scene in that story happened, I started bawling again because it completely redefined the experience for me, right?
Yeah.
Let me tell you what it is. It's something really stupid, but anyway. So of all the character stories, one of them we follow is Liam Neeson. Okay. How big is it? And in that, it's he's starting off the movie, and unfortunately, he's having to bury his wife. Right? It's her funeral, and he's got his son Sam, and he's having trouble connecting with Sam because Sam's always locked in his room. And then they finally start talking, and he admits he's in love, and there's this girl he's infatuated with at school. So he's doing everything to help enable this kid and move him along towards his goal, right? You just need one great moment and all this jazz. The kid finally comes up with a plan, and he's learning drums for the last 2 weeks of Christmas so he can play drums behind the girl who's singing, who's in love with. Yeah. So there's all this stuff and the things he's going through. And then later on, when they're at the airport chasing the girl, because you got to do that at least once in every rom-com.
And in Britain, you could do that in 2003.
I don't know. No.
I don't know.
No, there was still security. The kid was running through, but they were really casual when they were throwing the cuffs on him.
Well, they were white, so.
Yeah, fair enough.
I mean, let's be honest.
Boy, you really have had a few, haven't you?
I'm just saying, it's because everyone's racist.
Yeah, very much so. Anyway, neither here nor there. And by the way, Trent, I'm sorry. It just disgusts me to hear any type of racial intolerance like this. It's just horrible. I mean, it's kind of just like the Lithuanians. You know what I'm saying? Sorry.
Wait, what?
I said it's just like the Lithuanians. You know what I'm saying? I'm kidding though. Anyway, so let me get back to the rom-com because I got to tell you, it was just so stupid that I missed this detail. Later on, they're at the airport. Liam Neeson runs into someone else, because of course, naturally, we got to start him on a romantic story too, because his wife's dead, so that we want a happy ending by the end of the movie, right? When this happens, go ahead. No, I know.
No, I turned it down because I was fingering my ice hole.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to tell me how you were interested in something for Liam. Anyway.
Oh yeah, and involving a happy ending. I think he always has a happy ending.
Yeah, just depends on what zip code. So anyway, he runs into it and says, "Oh, you must be Sam's dad." And I've never caught this before. He says, "No, well, stepfather actually." And then I got floored, because that literally redefines everything about this. Because now, instead of this dad who's worried about his son, this is a guy whose wife has passed away, and it's and forgive me for putting it this way, but really it's her child. So now he's got no wife and her kid.
Yeah.
And so he's looking to make a connection. He's worried about the kid, and now he's going to these great lengths to help this kid in his romantic pursuits. And it was just like, and everything he gave, it just blew me away. I was just blubbering like a kid. Has there ever been anything in a movie, like, let's say you love, and there's just one detail you missed, and it just like it just blew you away?
Oh man. Yeah, I know there is. And upon rewatching, you finally get it. I can't think of anything offhand.
I'll tell you one, because I never caught it in the theatrical run.
Yeah, please.
Back to the Future. Near the end, I never caught the sign saying Lone Pine Mall for probably the first 15 viewings.
Wait, in which Back to the Future?
The original one. Marty comes back he goes back to the past, or he goes to the past, doesn't go back to the past.
Right.
And remember, old man Peabody had this crazy notion, breeding pine trees.
Yep.
So as Marty's racing out of there, he runs over and says, "You space bastard, you killed my pine." Blows the gun. Mailbox explodes up in the air, right? And then he goes back, when he goes back to the future, the time machine DeLorean won't start. He runs to the mall. He comes running down, and he goes up to the Twin Pines Mall sign, and it's now the Lone Pine Mall.
Oh shit! I never knew that.
Okay, well, Trent, great news. So I was saying, has there ever been a movie you've seen a bunch of times? And then something's revealed.
Oh my god!
And it redefines everything.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna have to rewatch that.
Yeah, and it's interesting though, because it's it's not really interesting to anyone else, but it is kind of to me, because the second Back to the Future movie, when you think about it, it had all this stuff about, alternate timelines and alternate realities, really, and the movie itself kind of introduces that in the first one. Right, yeah. Holy, you're right, though. Yeah. I mean, well, it kind of already did anyway, because Doc had the bulletproof vest. Now Marty suddenly got the nice car. My favorite, by the way, my favorite article from an old issue of Starlog, if you guys remember this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It was an article about the other Marty, because they were saying that, with alternate timelines, in theory, that original timeline still goes. So you got to feel bad for the other 1985 Marty, who left Lone Pine Mall to arrive in Twin Pines Mall, because I guess that Marty is able to drive better. And instead, he finally somehow gets back to the future. He's got a dead friend. He's got a skateboard instead of a car, and his parents are losers. Yeah. Oh, I guess that's kind of like Luke growing up in the desert, and totally his sister gets to grow up and be a fancy princess, right? Yeah. Wait, that did happen. Yeah, exactly. Well, no, not really. They're not. See, just like, and that's the same thing I said to my wife as I'm bawling my eyes out, because I'm a parent, and I'm like, oh my God, look how he's doing for these kids and everything else. Aww. I'm like, oh, he redefines everything. I can't believe this is so sad. And then the last thing he said, and these people don't really exist. Richard Bach, in his masterpiece novel Illusions, The Adventures of a Reluctant Messiah, talks about how fictional characters are a lot more real than real people are in most cases. So just something to chew on. I completely agree. And it's funny you bring that up. That was Trent, can we get a little can we wax, because this is the last time we're probably going to be doing this through the end of the year, right? Let's wax philosophic, man. I'm not even going to wax philosophic. I got the Bocephus juices flowing. I know you do. What does Bocephus mean again? It's the creative juices, not the procreative. Okay, yeah, sorry, I got hung up on that last detail. But no. I don't know. Hey, look, with the Last Jedi coming out, right? You know, it makes people ask a lot of questions, and one of the things Star Wars fans have always been able to say is, well, you know what? That's the Force. That's the Force at work. Okay, you know, it's like, how is it possible all these characters come to the exact same place at the exact same time, and impact it when? Oh, well, it's the Force. It's what the Force does, right?
Yeah.
So Star Wars kind of does that, and you're willing to roll with it, right?
Yeah.
So in many ways, though, I wonder if that kind of stuff plays out in real life, because if you think about it, it's a little weird that around the same time that I just happened to change the Radio Askew logo to look very similar to a writer, director, comic book, TV direct, a guy you may be very familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
I changed the logo of that podcast, and shortly after that, some guy just randomly follows it, happens to see a message, calls in.
Yeah.
Not only does that conversation go well, and a mutual hosting partnership is born, but bizarrely enough, both of those individuals, one of their favorite books is Illusions. Not even Jonathan Livingston Seagull.
No. It's okay, but Illusions is by far the better work.
Right, exactly. So it's kind of amazing to me if you think about it. Isn't that a bit more of a coincidence than you would expect?
To quote, Illusions like attracts like.
Wow. I'm starting to think maybe I need to go back and do a little reading, because you're spouting some parables, sir, that I'm finding mighty powerful.
It is that and Stephen King's On Writing are the only two books I read every year.
I keep meaning to read Stephen King's On Writing, because I've heard that it's both a great read about writing as well as his kind of journey into accepting why his accident had to happen, pulling himself out of the funk of that and all that jazz. Is that true?
Yeah, exactly. It's like maybe 1/3 process, or his personal process, and then 2/3 autobiography.
Oh, okay. There you go. Well, then that sounds like it could be a really interesting read.
It's amazing. I like anyone that's interested in doing anything creative, whether it's writing, painting, podcasting, if you can call that creative.
Oh, I definitely call it. Let me tell you. No. I definitely call it creative. Here's the reason why I call it creative, Trent. Okay. Here's the reason why. It's very simple. Very simple. I was even thinking about this when I was getting into the shower today. I'm sorry.
Ooh.
Yeah, you were kind of on my mind.
Am I kind of on your mind? I'm into that. That's cool. It's hot.
But I was thinking about that because, like last weekend, people asked you, is there going to be a show? And, the timing just didn't happen, whatever. And the times it doesn't. But, and other people are like, well, if you want me to sit in, and we've had guests, but when it comes down to it, if I'm sitting here with anyone else, I'm recording a podcast. When I'm here doing this with you, I'm talking to my friend, and that just happens to coincide with us recording a podcast now.
Totally. Yeah, it's true. It's true.
It really is. I mean, because back in the day I did Radio Askew because I wanted attention. It was 2005. It was a crazy time, man. All right, podcasts were just getting started.
Yeah, it's a brand new thing.
The publics were just getting into it. So yeah, I was doing that just to do a podcast. But now, honestly speaking, if we were kicked off of smodcast.com tomorrow, I would still be interested in doing this. I wouldn't care about and at least look, it would hurt. There would be pangs, okay?
It would not be surprising though.
No, not at all. I'm amazed we're still here as is. But it definitely I would keep doing this because I enjoy doing it with you.
As do I.
It's a good thing we kept just enough silence on either end of that, so we can really repurpose the shit out of those later, my friend. Yeah, okay. Well, it's a good thing
if
we're
the
doing
video wasn't on me, I was doing the finger with the the circle finger with the pointer finger going through it.
Oh, believe me, I let him see it. Okay. By the way, Randy Chang wants to know: did you ever see the Red Nose Day reunion for Love Actually? He said the Red Nose Day Love Actually video, but I think it was kind of like a reunion thing as well. The only thing, and it was just missing Mr. Alan Rickman, of course, because he's passed.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, no, I haven't seen it, and not for lack of trying or lack of interest. It just never happened. I've had some more interesting shit on my mind lately. Like Trent, I don't know about you. I have seen The Last Jedi.
Oh, as have I, sir.
By the way, I'm lying. I do know you've seen it. I've been meaning to ask you a question about this now, because I'm wondering if it was a typo or if this is something in line with your thinking.
Yeah.
Trent, may I quote you on your thoughts
Please.
about the film?
Yes. I know exactly where you're going, and I want to go there.
Okay, good. Now, by the way, let it be said, folks, we're talking Last Jedi for a few minutes, so definitely going to be some spoilers. Sorry about that. And I also want to say that I loved the movie. I just want to put that out there right now. It gave me everything I asked of it. I went in. I was entertained from beginning to end. Sure, there may have been some things that kind of took me out of the moment for just a brief.
Yep.
Nothing's perfect in this world.
But
I was entertained from beginning to end. And best of all, just like Empire Strikes Back, I did not see where it was going. I didn't. I couldn't tell what direction they were taking me. I didn't. They kept me guessing, so it played out quite well.
Right up to the end.
Yeah. So anyway, in that respect, I love the movie. So I asked Trent, and his take was, it is, let me cut it to you so we can see it, my favorite of the prequels.
Yes, it is.
I am, and I asked for clarity on that statement. I received none. So Trent, I have to ask you, what the does that mean?
Okay. Now, the prequels, right, were bridging a gap between generations, right, in Star Wars. Like, you were bringing, now it's up to 4, but at the time, at least 3 generations of Star Wars fans together, right? And so it was a movie that was trying to, and I believe this, the prequels were trying to give a plot and story geared towards adults with characters and asides for kids. And I feel like this is the first film that actually gives enough to everyone. Like, there is something in The Last Jedi for every single fan if they're willing to accept it. Whereas the prequels, like this is a plot story that can engage both adults and kids, and there are characters in here that engage both kids and adults. Whereas the prequels, it was binary; it was one or the other.
I understand completely now, because even though it happened to click with certain all ages, the original Star Wars trilogy, if you will, didn't really skew that direction. Yeah, it got a little ridiculous in Return of the Jedi. I'll say it. I'll admit it. Judge me. I don't care. But with this one, I can see that, because, there are elements of everything in there for everyone. So I kind of get. So you're not putting it in the same category of quality as the prequels.
Nope, not at all. Not at all. I'm looking at intent, and I think it succeeds where the prequels did not.
Excellent. I think you're right. Although before we get into our thoughts on the movie, I have to ask you, what is your take, if any, if you have any whatsoever? By the way, don't forget, folks, if you want to call in, you can. NetHeads on air via Skype, easiest way. Sorry, Matthew, Corey, you were calling when we were trying to get things going again.
Yeah, but call in.
It wasn't anything against you, sir.
Yeah, call back in.
Anyway, the thing that I find the most interesting about this movie, and the thing that I just am most amazed by is that, as a person that was coming in, Rian Johnson is what I'm talking about, to kind of continue this story and to write it and to work conceptually with what they wanted, it's really interesting how much the movie basically says, screw all that to all the old stuff from the movie right before. But that's not what I wanted your opinion on. There's this thing going on with Rotten Tomatoes right now, where the movie is certified fresh
by critics,
but the audience reviews are in the toilet. It's like 56 or 54%.
And there's even been an alt-right movement to drop its rating as much as possible on Rotten Tomatoes as well.
Now, the other day, I'm not saying that Google News is the end-all, be-all portal for connecting me with all of the truth that is out there.
Sure, but it gives you a highlight and a breadth of what's going on.
And I did see that they basically, Rotten Tomatoes was commenting and saying how they believe all of the voting is accurate, for whatever that means. But you're saying you believe that there is, like, there's been some theory that there's like some 4chan activity trying to screw with things. Because for those of you, and to be clear, the reason why this is so important is because these audience ratings are in line with, as Trent mentioned, the prequels.
Yes.
So that's why that's kind of a point to bring up here.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because there are even, in my opinion, hilarious attempts at petitioning the creators to strike this from canon. Sorry, the ending is pretty impactful. You can't just pretend that it didn't happen.
Yeah, you're right. You can. And the thing that I have to wonder about these movies, I don't really understand. I mean, I don't know what people are upset about unless it's because it didn't give them exactly what they were hoping. They had a predefined story in their mind. They didn't get the entire Yoda-Luke training experience that we got when it was Luke and Rey, for example.
Right, and I do have a few opinions about that. We can get into in a second.
Okay, and what are those opinions?
Well, okay. I feel like Rian Johnson pulled a few Joss Whedon moves. And I say this with all the respect in the world for Joss Whedon. He enjoys misdirecting for misdirection's sake, right? We all know that if you see a gun on the wall in the first act, by the third act, it needs to be fired, right? Was there anyone out there who, when they saw Luke's X-Wing in the bay under the water, think to their mind, oh my God, we're going to get to see her raise it up out of the water with the Force as she's learning how to use it. Nope. Don't even go back to it. Not even a thing.
See, the reason why I thought they showed his X-Wing was just to demonstrate how he got there and basically his own intention to stay there, because in the shot when you see it, there are pieces missing too. So the idea is this thing is submerged and screwed, and there's no, or it was also there, like you said, oh, was it a misdirection to raise it out? Yeah, I sort of thought that at one moment, like when I first saw it, and then the other thing I thought, because of what happens later in the film, is it gave us a way for something to be possible. And not to spoil some shit, but that for Luke to get off the planet is basically the assumption.
Right, which was essentially what you're expecting to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know. I honestly feel that the film could have benefited from some cuts, some hard editing. I also understand that as someone who has written and directed your film, you don't want to kill any of your babies. And you're very happy to leave them in there. But there are some parts I think that could have been shortened and everything would have been just fine.
Well, I think that's almost true of any movie, although I will say that I think the majority of what happened in the casino scene was almost unneeded. The betting place.
See, I enjoyed that.
And it was okay, but when it finally came down to like and don't get me wrong, I'm not against anything. I'm not for animal cruelty, but when it becomes a political message about animal rights, although it was very interesting, certain elements that you could see certain parallels playing out for stuff happening in the news today that would kind of apply there. But I don't think they were trying to force that type of left agenda, but just pointing out like war benefits more than just there's more evil in the galaxy than just the First Order, basically, is what they were saying.
Yes.
In a way.
Anyway,
but these are also the top 1%ers. Ooh, no, I'm kidding. Not really playing. By the way, he did take our dare. Mr. Corey, can you hear us? Welcome to the program.
Hey, one love, everybody. Nog-A-Thon 2017.
Oh,
man.
We can kind of hear him. You're almost there.
Yeah.
Let me just play with some volumes while you talk to him. It's nice hearing from you, sir.
Yes, nice to hear you guys. I just had a minute, wanted to call in and say thanks for another year of podcasts and looking forward to the next year.
Well, I think you're stretching it a little, calling it a year of podcasts, but okay, we'll work with you on that one.
A calendar year.
I don't even think that qualifies.
Hey, Ben Glebe took 6 months off, so I guess you guys are on a pretty good pace compared to that.
Well,
True.
I don't want to do any comparisons or nothing.
But Ben's back, and I'm glad I love Last Week on Earth. So.
Good.
Me too.
And by the way, I'm really sorry too, Mr. Corey, because when you tried to call earlier, obviously we couldn't take your call, and I think also when we were having audio issues, the only people that hear it are the podcast people, but when we were having audio issues, you didn't get to hear mention that one of the things Trent's been doing lately has been doing some binging of the Next Generation, and one of those things he came to. What was the name of the episode?
True Q.
There you go.
I've heard of that episode.
Yes, because
you don't say.
You wrote basically the first script that it was adapted from, correct?
Correct.
There. If you want to.
Yeah. Yeah. My question. I actually did have a question about this because and maybe I was just watching passively enough that I didn't see it, but I didn't see your name credited on the episode. Is that, or was it? Did I just miss it?
It's at the ending credits. It's like the third from the last card that goes by at the bottom of the screen. If you're looking at the ending credits, you'll see the words "Modern Sound," and then the next credit, my name pops up.
Okay. Good. I'm glad you got yours.
Well, I'm surprised you don't just have a GIF you can throw up, or a GIF or whatever that you can just throw out there for us to see. I'm sure you do, right? Come on, you got to have that.
I may have it somewhere. There was a time I threw up the credits of, I think it was the Tell 'em Steve Dave claymation one, where all the donors are listed, and the way that they were all listed, my name and Will Wilkins' names are on the same screen at the time.
There you go. Sorry you got stuck with such bad company, sir. Hey, and Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and all that other stuff to you, sir, out there on the East Coast. I hear that there might be a really nasty cold front coming your way. Is that true?
More up north, I think we'll be okay here in the Carolinas. But it's after 1 o'clock here on the East Coast, and my wife's pissed that I'm not in bed. So, and not in a good way.
Oh, well, it could be a good way. You just got to flip that script, sir. No.
Question for you, Matt. I know you've got.
He just said his wife's pissed. What are you doing, dude?
What I did?
He did.
You're like the reporter yelling at Donald Trump as he's walking away. What? Huh? No?
Oh, yeah, no. You call in, you're getting held hostage. I'm sorry. We've got you by the short hairs right now, dude.
All right. Well, what's up? We're taking
what's the kids?
Go ahead.
Yeah, what's on the Christmas list for the kids this year? What does everyone want?
Well, they want lots of stuff. They got a Xbox. One of them got the Xbox for his birthday last summer, so we're going to get him a couple of games and a couple of things to go with the Xbox.
Nice.
And a couple of other fun game stuff. And then we try to get some non-video game things so that they can actually still get out and exercise and do stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Crazy
Makes
talk.
sense. But okay. Like myself as a child, looking for a game or two to pass the Christmas break with.
Yeah, we were going to get Battlefront 2, but then all of the whole microtransaction news hit, and I'm like, maybe we'll wait on that.
Bullshit, EA pissing me off.
Ooh, interesting. Yeah. All right, Matt, look, I'm gonna intervene, not because I want to get you off the air, but only because I don't want your wife to be more pissed off at you than you are. It's easy for a bachelor that's just drinking in Utah to make judgment calls for you, but I'm going to keep it on Front Street. So thank you for your call, sir. Merry
Christmas. Be like me.
Happy holidays, all that jazz, and we'll catch you on the flip side, alrighty?
One love.
Thank you. And that'll take me into my next question. What is this microtransaction thing from Battlefront 2, Trent?
Oh,
what are you talking about?
This is some bullshit.
Okay, so go ahead and we'll do this, then we'll get back to The Last Jedi.
Yeah. So this new version of Battlefront came out. Everyone really enjoyed it, and it's a pretty good game. I haven't played it. My roommate, who is an avid gamer, in fact, hit me up later, and I can tell you about his Star Wars inspired Age of Empires 2 tournament he's got going on. But the game didn't really have any play. Like there was a definite plateau of like you get to a certain level and then there's like nothing else left, right? You're like you're good, you're so good, but there's no place to like go after that. So in the second rendition of it that they released, there is a place to like progress, You could either spend, and I don't remember exactly the numbers, so I'm just shooting from the hip here. I'm sure someone on the Twitter is going to jump in and give the exact ones, but you could either spend something like, I don't know, 200 hours to earn all these different asides that would help the game, or you could pay like $300 in microtransactions to get the same effect of having played for 200 plus hours.
That's either way, for a video game, that seems like a very high investment, either in time or money.
Exactly. Like, I mean, any gaming fan will tell you, regardless, I honestly believe any gaming fan will say, look, we're not paying for you to develop and fix a game. We're paying for the game. There was a time where you didn't have that option to just release something and then let people keep on paying for more of it. There was a time not too long ago where it had to be finished and then it was released and people paid. And the interesting thing is we're paying the exact same amount now as we were 20 years ago for video games. The only difference is we were getting a finished product then, and now it's always like, oh, we're going to fix that in the next DLC, blah, 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 blah. Or, you can upgrade with microtransactions like that. I just discussed. Anyway, it's some bullshit, and EA has notoriously been the worst at it.
So you're also creating a scenario, too, where basically people can economically force their way within the game and exploit it because they're able to just buy their way up.
Absolutely. Yep.
Nice. Does it contain a PvP environment at all, too? Multiplayer, anything like that?
Yes.
Oh, even better. Great.
Yep.
Sorry, now we're talking about nerdy game stuff. Not a lot of people. Well, about a lot of people, but not a lot of people want to talk about. But that's interesting to hear. Yeah, I don't know. It's always it's as a person that used to be what I would definitely call addicted to gaming. Mostly during EverQuest. I think in some ways World of Warcraft helped both supplement and curb me off that. Not to mention also Parenthood was another contributor there.
Yeah, having, things like responsibility.
Yeah. When it's not just your spouse you're neglecting, but more people than that, and you're cutting your earning potential. I don't think people really appreciate that in your personal life. So anyway, I know that there were a lot of those similar types of scenarios where it's like, okay, well, not everyone can spend the countless hours of wasting their life on this. So let's come up with another way that we can let them do that. Also, I think a lot of it stemmed from, at least at that time, and I'm sure it does as well from now, it's just it has to be a combative strategy as well against some of the quote-unquote farming houses, at least that used to exist at the time, to where somebody else is making money off their game and they get pissed off about that because it's like, oh, I'm going to spend $100 some odd and I'm going to get me some levels and some quality gear.
Which was made famous in the early renditions of MMORPGs.
Yeah, baby. Oh my gosh. I mean, there were businesses and there were like farming places in farming labs in foreign nations and everything.
Yep.
I mean, that's nuts. But then again, I guess any way somebody can find a way to exploit a system to literally make hay as the sun shines, you're going to get that type of scenario. Like even now, there was a parable the whole Bitcoin thing and the investing in Bitcoin. It's like this massive craze. I don't know a damn thing about it, so I don't care about it, but it sure seems to be causing some kind of a frenzy. I think there was even a company that went from making iced tea to now they're working in crypto technology or
cryptocurrency
or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's nuts,
well,
man.
and it's so interesting. I had this conversation just yesterday with a friend, and especially with Bitcoin too, because it's all about, I mean, yes, money, especially anything outside of a gold standard, is fake, right? It only has as much value as a culture is willing to accept that it has. But even more so with cryptocurrencies, because it can't be it's not available for trading of goods and services everywhere. So, for example, like to my father, he could have 1 million Bitcoins and it would equal $0 to him because he has no way to, you know what I mean, to like comprehend what it is, or even to make that asset liquid or anything along those lines. So it's kind of a way that's separating classes even at this point too, which I think was not the intention originally.
No, definitely not. I mean, I think it was well, come on, let's face it. I think the realistic thing is that a lot of the cryptocurrency was come up with in order to find ways to hold transactions without being tracked doing shit.
Guns and drugs.
Yeah, pretty much. Drugs and bugs. It's what it keeps the world going round. By the way, I just actually quoted Joe Pesci from the Michael Jackson Moonwalker movie short videos thing. So, whoa, what the hell just happened?
You're gonna have to look that up. Wow.
Joe Pesci, yeah, Bugs and Drugs. I don't.
Okay.
Why? I don't. I have one brother whose birthday I know because he was born on Christmas Day. Other than that, I can't remember that. But Bugs and Drugs, that's right in the frontal lobe, guys.
It's there.
Congratulations, Will. Way to go on that one. Anyway, yeah, the whole cryptocurrency thing, that's definitely going above my head. But also, I would just be terrified to invest in something that is even more incredibly intangible than quote-unquote shares in a company.
Yes.
I mean, this is like literally... This is a thing where you've got a currency that is literally backed by no assets whatsoever.
Right. Yeah. Uh-huh.
So, but then again, like you said, when it comes to like computer professionals, and even it could get to the point of mega corporations.
Totally.
If a cryptocurrency were to become the main currency, you would essentially outclass those that have no way to access or redeem it. So nobody.
Yeah.
I guess essentially it would come down to people would either have to or not have a smartphone, and that's or some other type of device.
Well, and then the know-how how to access, certain sides of the internet that the most average user has never gone. So it's
Trent, I got to tell you, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think any of us know. I do know. I want to get back to the Star Wars. And I would like to hear your rankings of the Star Wars movies, and I'm going to start with mine. Okay, so here's how I view the movies. All right, we've got Empire #1. Okay, for best movie. After that, this might be controversial, but I'm going to say it. Rogue One. Fucking love that movie. After that, New Hope, Return of the Jedi, Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and then 3, 2, 1.
Jesus, you literally wrote this down. You've put some serious thought into this.
Yeah. Well, because so many people have asked me within the past 2 weeks what my ranking is. I've had to think about it. So yeah, Empire, Rogue One, New Hope, Return, Force Awakens, Last Jedi, 3, 2, 1.
I really think that if I answer this, I may risk ostracization.
No, man. Hey, you know what? You like what you like, and there's no need to be apologetic about it.
Okay, because in that case, it's Empire, Rogue One. Nope. Hold on.
Okay.
Empire, Last Jedi, Rogue One, Force Awakens, then Return of the Jedi.
Okay.
Then the original.
Yeah.
Then 3, 2, 1.
Because
let them blow up. That's why.
Because 3, 2, 1. Up. Yeah. Well, it's interesting because Rian Johnson had said that he took most of his inspiration from Return for this film.
From Return of the Jedi?
Yeah.
Really? Well, Return of the Jedi has the exact same plot element of Empire Strikes Back that we sort of really didn't have so much in Star Wars, because there it was just basically princess trapped, everyone getting princess. So you don't have a lot of the party splitting up, but Empire is like literally we're breaking up the band, some going here,
there's a scene. There's a scene where we see the ships, diverge.
Yeah, later, y'all. We got to go. Sorry,
one love.
Pretty much. So you get elements of that also within Return of the Jedi, because it's like everyone comes back together, and then Luke is like, I'm screwing this up. I gotta go, and then I gotta go face Vader myself, and yada yada yada. So it's a lot of coming together, going apart, coming together, going apart.
Right.
And this movie did a lot of that too, but Return of the Jedi really less, and I really got I don't want to say I got an Empire vibe off of this at all, because I didn't. And I have to say that
no, neither did I. Neither did I.
My general impression of the movie, like I said, is it gave me everything I wanted, because a long time ago, not even in a galaxy far, far away, I realized I don't write Star Wars stories. I don't make Star Wars stories, so I can either like Star Wars stories that someone else does, or I can't. The prequels I wasn't exactly thrilled about, but when it came to The Force Awakens, they did enough of some new stuff to pique my interest. And actually, I enjoyed, more to the point, The Last Jedi actually changed my opinion of The Force Awakens. I now view it for its inferiorities compared to The Last Jedi.
Right. Well, and a colleague with whom I work is a fan of the prequels and Star Wars in general. And he was talking about how he was so happy that J.J. Abrams started this new trilogy, and he was happy that Ryan did the second one, but and not as a knock to The Last Jedi, but it makes you happy that JJ gets to come in now and end this part of this new trilogy, right? He gets to come in. The interesting thing that we speculated on, though, was, were there any parts, like, I would love to be a fly on the wall where JJ is watching it for the first time by himself, watching Last Jedi, see something happening, says, fuck. like that is not, I was going to use that character. You know what I mean?
Guys, let's just put it all on Front Street. We're not the first ones to introduce this concept. There is a lot of Rian Johnson's The Last Jedi that just seems to say, because even the core message of the movie is essentially let the past die. And there is a lot in The Last Jedi that just says, oh, that stuff from The Force Awakens, we're just going to let that die. Because I mean, folks, there is nothing like the hero having to admit something they now say they realize, which is, as a small child, I was traded for gas and a pack of smokes and left here, which is Rey, right? So,
maybe.
So, because if you think about it, The Force Awakens set. Oh, see, now you're just doing it. Look, dude, we were told that was it. Just let it go.
Oh yeah.
He even says, you know, it's true. And in the first movie, a similar thing was said. Maz, in the first movie, told her, you know, they're not coming back.
Yeah, but we also, in episode 4, we were also told that Darth Vader killed Luke's father.
Yeah, well, Obi-Wan Kenobi was a dick, dude. I mean, you know, think about it. He did a lot of lying to a lot of people. All
I'm saying is, I think, because that line is delivered ambiguously, giving Abrams the opportunity to and I hope he does not, but gives him the opportunity to go in and say, well, actually, that was just a ruse by Ben Solo to go in there and try to win her over.
There is enough of a plot loop,
totally
wiggle room in there, yeah,
totally. But what I love the most about what Rian Johnson did was that he showed that the Force is not dogmatic, right? And that when you try to pigeonhole, and I think the character played by Benicio del Toro only just reiterates this, is that when you try to put titles on what's good and what's bad, and when you try to dogmatize it through certain forms or whatever, that's where, I mean, essentially the dogma of the Jedi created Darth Vader, right? The rules of the Jedi were what created Darth Vader. If he would have been allowed to, like, be with Padme, or allowed to just kind of, you know, have the Force, but like put his own spin on it, he may have never, you know, turned out or gone to the dark side. But it was the binary, you have to do this and you can't do that turned him into such an evil person. And so that's what I really liked about the whole concept of the film, was that, like, we're saying goodbye to this, like, this old notion of, like, of defining what is good and bad. It's in my opinion, and maybe this is just because I'm so it's very close to home in religious homogenization, but it's like trying to define, or it's like It's like saying that in Mormonism, for example, you have a list of things you can't do, right? And based on those things, determine whether or not you're a good Mormon or not, as opposed to just being a good person and helping out people less fortunate than you. What really matters is what you're not doing, right? Making sure that you're not doing this, that, and the other. And I think it's that dogmatic minutia that he's giving the finger to, which really makes the Force way more for everyone involved, as opposed to just, those with the highest metachlorine counts.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Instead of space wizards with special germs. Yeah, okay. You used a lot of big words, man. You remember this is supposed to be Nog-A-Thon? It's late on a Saturday night. People are drinking.
Bocephus juices are flowing, man. I can't help it.
Clearly, you're off the chain, my friend. Although, it is interesting just the amount of this movie that does give a finger to almost everything that it seemed like JJ set up. Because you got Phasma, you got Rey's parents aren't important. Snoke, you know what? His backstory, not so important. He's just a bad guy. It's another emperor. Out of hell with it.
Well, and that's what's so interesting about the whether or not Rey's parents are so important or not. I honestly hope they're not, because I am so sick of this, like, oh, it's this lineage that's important. No, it's not. The Force is for everyone. And this is where I think you can blend that in with a good cut. Man, they spent 15 minutes of her in the upside down of the island that amounted to not moving the plot forward at all.
What did that? Well, I think what it was attempting to do.
At least with Empire, Luke saw his own face within Vader's mask, right? But here she just sees herself the whole time.
See, and I don't mean to, if I thought you went off on a tangent right now, buckle in, folks, because this is about to get, you better get the nog the fuck on, okay?
Let's do it.
Here we go. The interesting thing I just realized when you're kind of making this explanation is that, first of all, it is kind of important to sort of establish that if you are going to keep having these space wizards, you have to kind of remind the audience that it's not just this one lineage that gets to do all this cool stuff.
Right.
It could be anybody, and that's kind of why the little kid at the end with bringing a broom to himself.
Totally.
It's kind of like, this is the future. And this trilogy, honestly speaking, it's doing two things. It's kind of rebooting the franchise for everybody, but it's also got to do some things to kind of set up the next franchise too, or the next trilogy. So a lot of these characters are just kind of like bridge characters, unless in the long run, it's also like, oh my gosh, you guys aren't going to believe this. I just got cast in a Star Wars movie. That means I got my youth and my fucking retirement booked.
just settled.
Right? I mean, because seriously, that's it. Now, but that's not what I was going with. The other thing I was going with is there were two things I took out of that scene because it was very hard to get something out of. But I thought it was interesting that because with Kylo Ren, we're seeing a lot of a weird character where it's like, well, he wants to be bad, but he's supposedly feeling the drawings of being good, but instead he kind of becomes this hybrid of it where he does what's kind of the right thing because it suits him. And then he proves he's the bad guy. Whereas the other weird thing about that scene is that technically they made it look like Rey does this like in-depth confrontation with the dark side. And instead of even being changed by it, she just looked at it and was then made a realization of it, which was just that way is cold and lonely. That's all she got out of it. And so she's kind of an opposite hybrid where she's mostly good and recognizes the dark side, but just doesn't have any kind of feeling about it. So I don't know. And that's kind of like the whole renew thing as well that they're kind of saying. It's like that old religion's crap. We're moving forward with the future.
Which I mean, dude, how much? I personally, and I've heard others that did not like it, but I fucking loved Yoda's part in the film. I thought it moved the plot. It was funny, and it was very Yoda.
It was, except for the fact that they had to do that point of him doing the little leg dance just so we all knew, yes, this is a puppet.
Yeah, but that said, they finally, in all the reiterations of Yoda we've seen, they finally got his ears to work in the right way. Which to me was absolutely perfect. The way they would like curl in at certain times, almost like a facial feature itself. I was happy it was a puppet.
Yeah, well, I think everybody was, because that was part of the, kind of the inverse, as you've explained to me, the inverse of the uncanny valley. He's so artificial that we just instantly accept it. The thing that I liked hearing about was the fact that this puppet was in fact cast from the original mold from Yoda.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
So that's why there are probably many similarities to what you would expect to see from Yoda's ears, because they were doing exactly what they should.
Yeah.
That was also an interesting scene. The other weird thing the other thing I noted in this movie that I found very interesting was the way that it continuously planted seeds to help get us to where we needed to be for the end of the movie. There are all these little elements that happen in the film in regards to the Force and people doing things through the Force, like wherever Snoke is from, he's throwing people around with the Force across the galaxy. So, well, that's an interesting concept. And then Rey and Ben Kenobi, or Kylo Ben, as I like to call him, is
Ben Solo.
No, he's Kylo Ben. He's kind of like both.
Okay.
They end up getting somehow mentally linked and can see one. So there's a lot of these kind of little things. It was very much in the same way of Guardians of the Galaxy for me. It's almost like they introduced certain concepts specifically because it helps move things. It's something that comes back later. Like even like Luke says, "What do you expect me to do? Come with you and face down the entire Empire or the entire First Order with a laser sword?"
Right. Yeah.
It's like, okay. And then later on something happens and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And those parts are a little bit service, I think.
No, they are. And to quickly interject, I feel like the film, in one part for me at least, it suffered a little bit. And at least for the other people in the screening that I saw, the comedic timing is very off in parts. Right. So the idea of, and I think Marvel does a really good job of, you've got to build up a lot of tension and then you release it with a joke after you've earned kind of like sitting through that, like, I can't take any more. Then comes a joke. Almost the first line of dialogue we see is a joke, and no one in the audience laughed with the Poe cell phone bit.
Oh, really? They were laughing hysterically in my theater.
No, because it's like there's this huge fucking Star Destroyer right here, and then he's just here. Like, they're expecting like some massive shit to go down, and then a joke's being played out. I mean, personally myself, I like to earn it. Like, I want to have to like be ready for it. I think the first joke should have been, in my opinion, Luke throwing the lightsaber over his shoulder. That would be at the end of like oh my God, when Rose's sister makes the sacrifice to drop the bombs on the dreadnought. That's so, like, there's so much tension at that point. Relieve it with a joke, then might move things a little bit faster. I don't know. That's my 2 bits.
That's okay. I mean, because look, I really enjoyed this movie, and I
fucking loved it.
I've seen it a few times, but I'm not one to admit there aren't issues. Like the one big problem I have is that like the majority of this movie is this fleet of rebels that are flying away from this Star Destroyer. Right? They're able to keep just enough distance out to where any damage they do can't really get through the shields. But my problem with this is a very Terran concept. This is a very gravitational, it's a very XY
yes, it's very two-dimensional.
Yes, that's it, two-dimensional. Whereas these are things traveling in space. There's no other place anywhere on the Z vector that the Empire doesn't have somebody that they can't just come in. You know what I mean? That was my and honestly, that was like one of my only big problems at all with the movie.
Yeah, well, I mean, and only to further skew that thought, like, so if we're looking at like just traveling through a plane of existence, right? A plane of space. Why couldn't one of the ships, who obviously had enough fuel, but it was the impulse speed, to use TNG or Star Trek terminologies, that they couldn't keep up with him, right? The hyperspeed wouldn't have been a problem. So why not just make one jump of hyperspace out here to point A, and then jump to point B, which happens to be in front of the rebel ships, and then they would be trapped right there. Like, that's kind of a no-brainer to me, at least. I don't know.
Yeah, there's something about the physics we don't know. But it was nice to finally see what would happen in a Star Wars movie if somebody didn't actually carefully plot their course in jumping to light speed.
Can we talk about Laura Dern's final moments? Holy shit, dude. She jumps into the dreadnought, and they choose to just go silent on the sound reel. Jesus, that was impactful.
That was very, very, very powerful.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that was, and it was just cool to see that, because we see it from the other perspective. You just see like what looks like all of the stars stretching out, and instead this was kind of like the opposite of that, where
exactly
it was this was this thing traveling through here, but the matter wasn't something or other, or I don't know what.
Well, and at least for myself, I base my conceptual interpretation of FTL, faster than light travel, through Battlestar Galactica, right? Like, you have to have planned a trajectory and a course so that you don't just slam into a planet, along the way. Isn't really,
and maybe that's the bit of physics that we don't think about, and that's the reason why they
exactly.
can't do certain things.
And maybe so. Yeah, we don't know. The other thing that I, again, like, we're fans. It's fun to nitpick. Right? That's okay. I don't understand why they thought launching ships from the or escape pods from the port side, like, why wouldn't they be seen by the Empire as they just, by the First Order, as they just eventually started just blowing them out of the sky?
Oh, well, no. That what they did say, they did mention that part. They said that the reason why they could get away is because the Empire would be tuned for scanning for the larger devices, and they would be sort of like ignoring those smaller signals, and they may have changed something too. But then, because Benicio Toro tells them, they're like, oh, well, wait, adjust the scanners, and sure enough, hey, look, there's a bunch of little ships going away.
Okay, that makes more sense then.
Yeah.
That said, I love the choices in any film that Benicio del Toro makes of just like making that character very unique and very his own. Fingers crossed, I really hope JJ brings him back, because I feel like he, of all the characters, showed how arbitrary light and dark is in this universe, right?
Oh, very. Like, right down with that demonstration, because it's like, yeah, this ship was owned by an arms dealer.
Totally.
He made his money selling to the bad guys. Oh, and the good guys.
Yep, exactly. Like, for me, I was just like, yes. Not unlike how we have documentation of ISIS using Episode 4 as a recruitment tool for themselves, saying, look, we're the rebels. We're this small group of people fighting against the Empire, right? Like, it's all a matter of perspective of what's good and bad, what's light and dark. So I truly appreciated that. And which I think the best thing for me, at least in my fandom for this film, is that it tears down the dogmatic interpretation of what's good and bad, what's light and dark.
No, it's all just a machine, man. The only way
way
to stay safe, don't join.
Oh my God, wasn't that great? Oh, so good.
Yeah, and he was also just very, I mean, the thing that I liked about his character is that he truly is what I think conceptually Han Solo was in the beginning. He was just
nailed it.
Pure rogue. It doesn't matter. I'm in this to survive. And, and that's exactly kind of his point. Is like, we got caught. I made a deal. And I'm walking away. Oh, look, I got a bunch of boxes with money too.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Exactly.
Maybe we'll see each other again. Maybe we won't. I don't know.
And that brings me back to the point of the democratization of the Force, right? Like, one of the first times we see Ben Kenobi and Han have a conversation, Ben says, "Oh, well, you also could learn how to use the Force if you wanted to, like anyone can. It's not this lineage of it has to be through the Anakin Skywalker lineage to be inherently good. Like anyone can use the Force, and that's why I just, fingers crossed, I really hope that Rey's parents sold her for a pack of smokes.
Yeah. Dude, I really hope it was beer and gas money, because
that's a more inspirational story than like, oh well, she actually is the daughter of so and so, and that's why. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, some people are just heroes because that's the role they were born to play, and it's not necessarily who their parents were or anything else. And I think that was the other I think important thing to sort of reestablish, like you said, like Ben Kenobi back in the day said, it's just like, reach out, come on, feel it. And it's just like, oh, this guy is strong with it, so he's got a good connection. But it wasn't about germs or anything else. It was just a matter of, it's this thing that's out there. So it really is like a religion. It's something anyone could adopt. It doesn't have to be a Skywalker.
I don't know if you got a chance. It was floating around all over the internet through Reddit, Facebook, Twitter, etc. On the Collider website. Adam Chitwood wrote an article about the problem. Well, he even titles it, Star Wars: The Last Jedi and the problem with fan theories, right? And he sets it up like, look, we're fans, and it's fun to theorize and to poke holes and to, to me at least, and I don't know if I'm looking too much into this, but it was in those opening scenes where we see BB-8 trying to put his fingers in all the holes in the dike, right? And then he eventually just has to mash his whole body into it. If that wasn't a allusion with an A to like what the whole like Star Wars mythos is about, it's fun to do those things. But at the end of the day, I'm just going to read it because, as The Last Jedi proves, it's not always going to be what you expect. And assuming the filmmakers will /have to follow up on questions you have in the manner you expect is unfair to the film and ultimately yourself. I'm going to tweet this out. That doesn't even come close to doing justice what he does in this article, but it is a great way of just saying, like what you like and let it go. We are in such an amazing, dude. Not only are we getting more Star Wars, we're getting more Star Wars on the regular.
On the reg.
20 years ago, who would have thought that was even a possibility? And for those who are pissed about it, you know what? Go join your friends who are mad about girl Ghostbusters and fuck off.
Dude, I retweeted, I can't remember the name of the guy. It's somebody that's verified, but he just had the funniest take. He's like, oh, you want to whine about essentially like the elements of The Last Jedi? Let me tell you what I went through, okay? I went through in the theater, Jar Jar Binks, such and such, and a freaking space diner. That's right, I said it, a freaking space diner.
Yes.
And
it's so true.
The prequels were a lot. I mean, seriously, the Star Wars fandom really kind of has been stretched really thin. Because really, it was a lot, I think, for the older generation to kind of really take anything away from the prequels. But much like you said, it was because of the fact that those movies weren't made for us. They were made to sell toys and and keep kids engaged and helps bring the story
in a
along.
New generation. Totally.
Exactly. So, they weren't for me, and I didn't get a lot out of them. But it was interesting that so many elements from those kind of got like lifted out. Like even Luke saying, the hubris, not necessarily the hubris of the Jedi, but maybe they shouldn't be around because at the height of their power, they brought in the Emperor came into existence on their watch. So. And I also did kind of like when he was talking to Rey and he gets her like completely into feeling the Force, and then he just like drops a little science on her. Suddenly it's like, yeah, and that doesn't, unlike what the Jedi think, that doesn't belong to anyone.
It doesn't belong to anyone. Exactly. And that
doesn't belong to them.
For me, like just the democratization of the Force is the most important thing out there. And I'm so glad that we can finally articulate that Rey is the last Jedi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think that's kind of clear because...
Oh, yeah.
Well,
They kind of hit you over the head
because
with it.
not everybody really... Yeah, but he says, I'm not the last Jedi. You see Rey
Right.
levitating rocks. And,
Right.
and again, careful use of Yoda's words. And maybe this is a little something to kind of make sure we're not taking it face value, because Yoda says something along the lines of, there's nothing in those texts that Rey doesn't already possess. And
page turners, they are not.
Yeah, but he does say there isn't anything in them that she doesn't possess, and then later on we discover she actually boosted the books because they're in the same drawer on the Falcon that Rey takes the blanket out of to give to Rose.
I'm glad you... Yes,
I thought, and the first time I saw it, I'm like, wait, was that? And oh yeah, it was. So
yep,
that was a very interesting bit to throw in. Definitely a lot of great things in the movie. I'm amazed that it's so controversial, because it seems like everyone in my circle of friends, we're talking about Bubbles again, it seems like everybody I know kind of liked it. The only one that I don't think got the same experience out of it was like the guy who runs the Scum and Villainy Cantina, J.C. Reifenberg. He's also the producer on Fat Man on Batman.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead, man. He definitely I think didn't like it, just from things that I've seen on the from him. But I don't know that I've seen anyone else really speak to it that I know of in the negative. And I don't know if you guys on Twitter, maybe you have a different opinion at #NetHeads. I mean, Ash Williams is saying that basically this movie rips off Dark Empire, which I should go out and pull my comics out of the garage and perhaps look at to see, but I'm not necessarily tracking it. Oh, the fail whale popped up too while we were on. Sorry. Anyway, excuse me. Now, the other thing, too, that I wanted to talk about, it wasn't necessarily tied directly to The Last Jedi. Actually, it has absolutely nothing to do with it. I was having a conversation, actually completely outside of anything you may think related, and it was a question that I wasn't expecting, but it was definitely a question that I was surprised at my answer to. And I don't know if you guys would share the same opinion out there as fans of NetHeads. And I apologize, I can't believe we've gone so long. We'll be wrapping it up soon, I swear. If you've stuck with us this long, I highly commend you. You're an amazing person, and you've got the fortitude to really...
And they obviously haven't drank as much as I have.
However, I would definitely also say that we will be wrapping up soon, because Trent's bladder almost exploded. So I was having this conversation, Trent, recently, and somebody asked me a question, and I was surprised at my answer, mostly because it was the first time I had thought about it. And I'm interested to first hear your answer. We were talking about, I can't really be sure what we were specifically talking about. I think it was, it came up that I cut my teeth on installing Windows 95 and Windows NT, I think 351.
Okay,
and back when there were driver's panes and you actually had to edit config files before
you could update.
Yeah, and all other kinds of things that I can mention that millennials don't even know what I'm talking about.
It just doesn't do it on its own?
No. What do you mean your phone? What do you mean you can't surf the web on your... Can you imagine if you threw them back, literally? Anyway.
Even just 15 years ago, man.
Yeah, things change very fast. But that was the nature of the thing, the inquiry. Because somebody said... They asked me, what do you think was the pivotal thing that changed the way people interact with computers? That was the question that was asked.
Okay.
I'm not going to give you my answer. First, I want to hear yours. At which point, then I'll probably let you say a few words, rudely interrupt, and tell you what my answer was.
The mouse.
Okay, I get that. It's a direct interaction with computer.
Yeah, I think that is probably in my opinion, the most influential aspect of UI, user interface, with technology being like a mouse, a stylus, or anything along those lines.
I'm not saying you're waking up in the yard yet, but I would definitely love to hear you try and say user interface again, just one more time.
I know. I heard myself slur that, and I was like, fuck.
Is it user interface?
God damn it! I've been holding my shit together so well.
If only some woman randomly knocks on the front door, it'll be so much like the first Nog-A-Thon now.
Call back to what, 2011?
2011.
Was it 2011?
2011. Radio Skew 2005. NetHeads on Smodco Internet Radio is August of 2011.
Yeah, and our first Nog-A-Thon was on NetHeads, not. Fuck me.
Yeah,
God damn it.
Dude, you're definitely one with
I
the
feel like
clan.
I'm understanding a lot of stuff though. It's like I feel like I was way more drunk last year than this year.
That's that Bocephus uses phone, man. Sorry. See, I'm gonna make him spit now. Sorry.
Spit takes.
Anyway, so here's my answer, and I don't know if it may surprise you or not, but believe it or not, it's not directly attributed to the computer. I would say that the one thing that has changed the way fundamentally we interact with computers is actually the advent of broadband technology.
Okay.
And
sure.
And my justification, I'll give you my reasoning, and then you can tell me if you think I've at least got enough to start my master's, I guess.
Yeah.
It has the availability of broadband has redefined everything that we are able to do in the world. The internet was part of that. But at the time when the internet first came along, information could be exchanged, but anything big was lengthy, and it was very inconvenient. It was difficult to work with. There were modems. It was a mess.
Yeah.
The advent and availability of broadband technology to everyone created a revolution that tried to start a new economy that failed. You remember the new economy, the .com era.
.com, right? Yeah.
Came and went.
That from that broadband though.
Somewhat, yes, somewhat. However, the way we fundamentally interact with computers, now we're getting there. Here it comes.
Okay.
Then you start to get things like, and mind you, this is a guy who used to do a streaming video show from his garage in
Play TV, baby.
98 when nobody had broadband practically.
Yeah.
We were running a 56K stream and 128K stream. I should make you feel a little better now.
You guys did 128?
Yeah, well, I was one of the first people that I knew of that had DSL, and it was because somebody else was paying the bill.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, in the early Napster days, man, if you could find someone who had a DSL or like any of the T lines, like that's who you wanted to pull from, because otherwise it wasn't happening.
Okay, so as a person that did this and was obviously involved in something that was way ahead of its time, the advent of broadband changed the way we are able to also share information. It's what allowed YouTube to be born, because large quantities of information could be exchanged, which ends up leading to a greater revolution in the streaming industry, which leads to streaming television. It leads to us watching TV through our broadband devices. It forces the cell phone industry to up its standards when it comes to data. It pushes the limits, which brings us to smartphones. So I really firmly believe that one of the things that really changed fundamentally the way we deal with computers was the advent and availability of broadband. That really redefined everything.
I agree. The only caveat I give to that is that I'm still faced with very timely whenever the holidays come around and I have to go back to bumfuck Wyoming and broadband speed is not available, both via mobile and via just hardline internet. It's like stepping back in time. Something that's so everyday normal for me, of, at the very least 200 megabytes per second, to see, my family, or at least my parents, who are throttled or just out through infrastructure alone down to 8 megabytes a second, and they think that's screaming fast. It's very interesting to see how other places have been able to adapt without having that speed.
Let me tell you, Trent. Hold on. Let me pull this. Let me show you this picture. Now it'll take. Here, let me start to download. We'll talk about something else for a minute, and I'm gonna show you it to you. Okay? Kind of thing like that still, or
Oh, absolutely, man. It's to me it's crazy how people are still able to navigate the internet in places that are not broadband capable. And I know those are very far and few right now, but it exists even in the United States.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. I'm not gonna take that away. I mean, there are people that are still on, more than likely on some type of dial-up to save money. They only know of the internet through, which, by the way, and somebody brought this up, and it's true, and it's amazing. You know, before you want to shit on like the good old-fashioned American library, remember, it's one of the few places that doesn't expect you to buy anything while you're there that you can go to. And I thought about that, and it's like, wow. But it's also like, if you don't own a computer, it's a way to have email, because you could sign up through a free email service. You could go to a computer at your local library, and you could access your email. I mean, you're not going to get your porn there. You know, you're going to have to.
No, you are. You still are.
It's a little odd. Yeah. Just don't do it when Miss Nancy's reading to the kids.
Yeah. All I'm going to say is, when I was a certified clergyman for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and we had our 1 day a week to access internet. It was us, usually with a bunch of gentlemen who had no homes, and while we were corresponding with our families via email in 2003, they were just looking at porn in the Harrison and Kearney libraries of New Jersey.
Well, there you go, my friend.
It was that, or they were, bathing in the bathrooms there.
Well, cleanliness is next to godliness.
Right you are, Will. Right you are.
What's really sad about me as a person, Trent, I think, is the fact that the part I'm pondering the most. And I realize now that these guys are just obviously, for lack of a better term, downloading for use later. But for a moment,
they're going up to the kiosk to print it off. Which at the time wasn't even a kiosk. You had to actually get it from someone.
Yes. Excuse me. Can I have my printout, please? That's my minister. Praise Jesus. Yeah, because I was like, why would you sit in a library looking at porn? I mean, because essentially that's like saying, why would you go to McDonald's to look at a Big Mac? You're not going to do that. Yeah. You're going to go there to eat a Big Mac.
Oh, yeah.
That's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for helping to educate me on that, Trent. It's just not a direction I expected the holiday season to go, but I greatly appreciate that.
There. It always goes there.
So I guess that does answer the one question. We're at a very interesting time. We're going to be hosting Christmas at our home this year. So
good for you, man.
Oh, I'm glad you think so.
What? How many of the external family are you hosting?
Well, there's 4 people in my family, and I know the final number, so I'm saying there's going to probably be 26 to 30 more people here.
Jesus, he is the reason for the season. Christ, that is a ton.
Well, I don't know if it actually qualifies it as a ton or it exceeds it, but
metric in the metric system, perhaps.
Yes, I think it falls somewhere within that metric system of a fuck ton. But I don't know what it was like when you were growing up, Trent.
Yeah.
But I know when I was growing up, it was like this in our household, and same with my wife. So naturally, these habits are also passed on. So, as you know, when people come to visit your home, it can't look like anyone actually lives there. You can't have that. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
It's like,
I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, we're not going to be doing any. No. The cushions, the pillows must be arranged. The cushions must be tidy. The beds must be made.
Yep.
My typical pile of laundry next to the bed is not allowed. I mean, what the hell about that, right? Come on.
Yep. There were even times in my childhood where I remember everything being thrown into a black trash bag, only to be reopened that was hid in the garage afterwards.
Yeah, exactly.
To see what was in there so that we could get the shit that we actually needed out.
Well, but it's like, well, I told those kids 100 damn times to pick up their room and they didn't do it. I'm just throwing all this shit into a garbage bag. And we'll deal with it afterwards.
Yep, and we had to earn it back.
Oh, that's genius. That's a technique I ought to use. You got to earn it back now.
The other technique was, when we had chores like taking out the trash, if you didn't do it, it ended up in your bed.
The trash?
Yes.
Oh, not your old stuff. Well, that's really gross.
Yeah, no, the actual bananas and soda cans and whatever else ended up in your bed.
Trent, I got to tell you, based on the things you've said, I've had nothing but what I would definitely call at this point now a fancy lad life.
Hey, it only took a couple, maybe 4 times before I started taking the trash out.
It's understandable. But, it's a different time for parents' discipline now. Now it's a greater threat to say, I'm going to turn off the internet.
Totally, man. Absolutely, yeah.
Anyway, so wow. Okay, well, thanks for sharing that, all, Trent.
Yeah, you're welcome. There's a lot more way down deep in there that you can only access with the Bocephus juices.
Or a couple more drinks and crying to yourself in a cold shower.
Oh, there's going to be a lot of crying tonight.
I'm just going to put on some of the saddest Phil Collins music I know. I'm just going to turn on the cold water and just cry naked in the tub.
Just enjoy it. As long as, there's a spectrum, right? At one end is maybe Phil Collins and the other is Elliott Smith. As long as you don't reach that Elliott Smith point, you're fine.
Very true. Very true. Oh, the darker spectrums. Well, because there's not really a lot. I don't know why I went Phil Collins. I really, other than the fact that I'm seeing, have you seen, folks? Oh, by the way, something we didn't even do, like cool gifts that you can't get, because it's like, what are our printer picks?
Yeah,
I totally forgot about that. We got to do just one little public service announcement. Because Christmas is just days away. If you want to get something for somebody, look. First of all, the easiest way. If you didn't get it yet and you can't get it in time, it's called a printer pick. What does that mean? It means you pick something, it's something somebody's going to like, you print a picture of it, you wrap that, and you say with the date of when it arrives. Because that way you're like, I did care enough to buy it, I just wasn't timely enough to get it to you.
To get it in time.
So what is yours, Trent?
You know what? There's a couple of them. Last year, I told my parents, and I'll be honest, it was out of a fact of spending too much money on the then girlfriend that I had no money left to buy my parents anything, that I was getting them a, those Ancestry.com DNA tests that you swab in your mouth and they tell you whatever lineage you have, that was last year. Told them that's what was coming, or didn't order it in time, but they're actually getting it this year.
Oh, okay.
So I can actually deliver on it. I didn't all throughout last year. It was a blatant lie to them.
Well, first of all, it's so good that you do that I'm so glad you admit to that on a publicly broadcast podcast.
Hey, you know what? Dad doesn't know how to access Bitcoin. Doubt he's going to see this.
Don't really think my brother's going to narc me out, so we're good. It's not like he can extort me for anything. So
not going to happen. Yeah, exactly.
He's not. You don't have a whole Chet Wyatt situation going on there.
No, we're good.
Okay, good. Glad to hear that. Anyway, but wait a minute. Now hold on. I was going to end all this, but now I got to know.
Let's keep it going.
It's like, well, gosh darn it, folks. I don't know what happened, but it finally arrived. Here you go. I mean, what do you do?
They're wrapped, and I'm going to take them up on Monday and give them to them. I'm the youngest and kind of the black sheep and the underachieving of the family, so it's only to be expected.
Well, Trent, I think the beautiful part there is the important message you're giving the young kids of America today, which is just, accept the labels you're given and just accept the shortcomings that are there. And
embrace it.
I don't think there's any finer Christmas message to send us all out on into the holiday season. Folks, just accept your limitations and just take whatever labels you're given, pretty much.
Yep,
and
absolutely.
Just shoot for that 60%. That's about all we need. 60%. It'll
keep you employed.
There you go. So until next time, folks. My name is Will.
And I'm Trent.
There's been another edition of a NetHeads Nog-A-Thon. I don't know who you are that is still listening, but peace be with you. and may whatever deity you worship have mercy on your soul.
We'll be back soon.
Thank you. I know how it ended, but
I know, but fuck.
This is NetHeads with Will Wilkins and Trent Hunsaker. Signing off.
I know, right? But stop being a little Nancy and deal with it.
NetHeads. We'll be back soon.
Goodbye. This has been a production of Smodco Internet Radio. Sir, only at smodcast.com.
I like that in the end, there was no real nogging at all during the Nog-A-Thon.
Well, I'm sure I said this last year. I don't remember it. I don't remember at all the ending of last year's. In fact, I quickly deleted the next morning afterwards of last year's that I went on Periscope live after our show ended. But I feel like I'm coherent now enough to know that I haven't made a complete ass myself.
But will you or will you not be wearing an empty 12-pack box on your head?
The great thing about that is, though, Will,
you don't remember it.
It's a really good container for popcorn later on.